The cold winter wind brushed softly against the frosted windows of the big mansion on Pinewood Hill. Snowflakes danced through the air, glistening like tiny diamonds under the pale December sun. Inside that mansion, laughter echoed from the grand living room, children unwrapping presents, parents raising glasses of champagne, and the aroma of roasted turkey filling the air. It was Christmas Eve, a night meant for joy and love. But not everyone inside that house felt joy. In the quiet servants' quarters at the back of the mansion, Clara, a young maid in her mid-20s, sat on a small iron bed, clutching an old teddy bear that belonged to her little daughter, Lila. Her eyes glistened with tears, and her heart felt heavy. Lila was only 6 years old, waiting miles away in a small rented room, hoping her mother would come home for Christmas. But Clara couldn't. She had to work late. Baby, forgive me, she whispered, holding the teddy close. There's no Christmas for us this year. Her voice cracked, her shoulders trembling. She had promised Lila a tiny Christmas tree and a gift, something simple, maybe a book or a doll. But the week had been long, and the pay she was expecting was delayed. She had barely enough for food, let alone presents. Downstairs, the sound of laughter and music only deepened her pain. She wiped her tears quickly when the head butler's voice called out, "Clara. The guests need more champagne in the living room." "Yes, sir," she replied softly, forcing a smile as she grabbed the tray and walked down the hallway lined with expensive portraits and glowing lights. The mansion looked like a fairy tale. But to Clara, it was a dream she didn't belong to. As she entered the living room, her eyes caught sight of the tall, elegant man standing near the grand piano, Mr. Alexander Reed, the owner of the mansion. A billionaire businessman known for his coldness and strict discipline. He rarely smiled, rarely spoke, and everyone feared him. But what the staff didn't know was that behind his sharp blue eyes, he carried a loneliness that no amount of money could fill. Clara quietly refilled glasses, avoiding eye contact, praying no one would notice her trembling hands. When the guests started to dance, she slipped away to the kitchen, her eyes glancing at her old phone. The screen lit up with a message, "Lila, Mommy, are you coming home? I saved some cookies for you." Clara bit her lip, her tears threatening to fall again. She typed back quickly, "I'll try, baby. Be a good girl. Mommy loves you." But she knew she wouldn't make it. Snow was falling heavily, and her shift wouldn't end before midnight. In that moment, Mr. Reed entered the kitchen silently, placing his empty glass on the counter. He noticed Clara hastily wiping her tears and pretending to be busy washing dishes. Something in her voice when she said, "Good evening, sir," caught his attention. "Are you all right?" he asked, his tone surprisingly gentle. "Yes, sir," she lied quickly, her back turned to him. "Just tired, sir. Long day." He studied her for a moment, her worn-out uniform, her trembling shoulders, the faint redness around her eyes. He nodded and walked away without another word. But as he stepped out, he overheard her whisper again, "Baby, forgive me. There's no Christmas for us." Those words froze him in place. He turned slightly, watching her quietly from the hallway. She had no idea he was still there, listening. Her soft sobs filled the kitchen as she leaned against the counter, clutching her phone. He felt something stir deep inside him, an ache he hadn't felt in years. Memories of his late wife, the lonely Christmas nights after she passed, and the emptiness of celebrating success with no one to share it with. That night, when everyone left and the mansion went silent, Mr. Reed sat in his study, staring at the flickering fireplace. Clara's words echoed in his mind again and again. He couldn't shake them off. "Baby, forgive me. There's no Christmas for us." He stood up suddenly, grabbing his coat. He didn't even know where she lived, but he was determined to find out. Something about her sorrow felt unbearable to ignore. Meanwhile, in a small, freezing apartment across town, little Lila sat near the window, watching snow fall. A small paper star she made hung on the window. She looked at her mother's picture on the table and whispered, "It's okay, Mommy. Maybe next Christmas." Back in the mansion, Clara finished cleaning the floors. Her hands were numb, her heart even more so. She sat on the stairs, looking at the grand Christmas tree one last time before turning off the lights. If only her daughter could see it, just once, she whispered again, "Merry Christmas, baby," and that's when she heard footsteps. Mr. Reed stood at the door, watching her with something in his eyes she had never seen before, compassion. "Clara," he said quietly. "Do you have a daughter?" She froze, unsure how to respond. "Yes, sir. Her name's Lila." Where is she now? He asked. At home, sir. Waiting for me. He looked away for a moment, his jaw tightening. Go. Be with her. She stared in disbelief. But, sir, my shift. Forget the shift, he interrupted softly. No child should spend Christmas without their mother. Clara's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. He nodded, quietly handing her an envelope. For your daughter. Buy her something nice. Merry Christmas. When she opened it later, she gasped. Inside was enough money to pay her rent, buy gifts, and maybe even start over. As she ran home through the snow, clutching that envelope, she felt something warm in her heart she hadn't felt in years, hope. And behind her, in that big lonely mansion, the billionaire stood by the window, watching the snow fall, whispering to himself, maybe it's time I find my own reason to believe again.